It was so new, it was so beautiful, and beautifully landscaped, and the details were so incredible that it was just an astonishing, wonderful experience. And that's immediately why I said to my guardian, this is where I want to go to school.
Living at Cranbrook is quite a unique experience. They give you a beautiful house designed by Elio Saarinen and a studio, and it's all on Academy Way, which is the main street of the school. And it's sort of like living in a small town, except that all the residents of the town are artists and designers and architects.
It's an absolutely integrated approach where architecture and landscape and product design and art are integrally connected.
Elio Saarinen believed that design started with the spoon, which was on a plate, which was on a table, which was in a room, which was in a house, which was in a city. Not only was he a designer of that spoon, he was a designer of that city.
My first impression was of Elio Saarinen because he's the person who came down to Kingswood to see this little girl who was designing a house. And he was charming and modest and thoughtful in talking to me.
Elio Saarinen was very impressed by her work. This is essentially as a teenager. So the Saarinen family kind of unofficially adopted her, and she worked with and interacted with Elio Saarinen, Eero Saarinen, and the whole family. And I think that was a huge influence on her work and on her vision.
And perhaps the first furniture I experienced of Eero's design was my room at Kingswood. I'm sure he laid it out. It was because I could just tell. And the first thing he suggested to me was to redesign the room and make the furniture. So that was his mentality. He was already working on me to get involved in that sort of thing.
I think Cranbrook taught Florence Knoll about the lyrical figure in space, because the sculpture there is very much figural and the space is very magical. Then after Cranbrook, she worked with Mies van der Rohe, and he taught her about minimalism and the idea of the ground against which the figure works.
I designed the architectural spaces that were needed to make the room work. I mean, things like this wall or the sofas and things that gave the space, and the chairs, sculptural, I left for people like Bertoia and Saarinen.
She just had a fantastic eye. And so these environments that she created were extremely elegant.
Florence Knoll was also a very good design patron. So she brought Eero Saarinen in, her old buddy from Cranbrook, to design essentially the figures to go against the ground that she was designing. She was designing the case goods, a very elegant, larger furniture pieces.
I started a thing called the planning unit. That was for space planning for buildings. That was also to get the furniture we needed. And that's when I got Eero and Rapson and Bertoia. All those people were from Cranbrook.
The work of Saarinen and Bertoia is very sculptural, and that's definitely a Cranbrook influence, coming from people like the head of sculpture at Cranbrook, Carl Millis. With Saarinen and Bertoia pieces, there's a continuity as you walk around them, like good sculpture. They're three-dimensionally complete. Every angle looks good.
If there was a bias, it was probably toward aesthetics. The furniture had to be beautiful.
Hans had some Swedish designers were perfectly nice and did nice general things, but I wanted Mies. I wanted the very top of everything for us, and got it.
And I suspect that people brought designs to Knoll because of Schuh, because they knew they would get a good reception.
American modernism, it is said, found its birthplace at Cranbrook. Knoll, of course, is associated with modernism. It's also associated with creativity, research, perfectionism. Excellence is hard to define, yet it is immediately recognizable. And I think that that's what Florence Knoll contributed. She sought excellence and she recognized it.